Hi, this is Kate Magic, and you're listening to the Raw Living podcast. Raw Living is Europe's leading raw foods and superfood supplier, and I founded the company back in 2002. In this interview series, I'm talking to some of the people behind the brands that we offer on our shop to find out what exactly is the ethos behind the company. Not just the ingredients that they use and the processes that they use to create the end results, but I'm asking them other questions like how do they show respect for the environment? How do they treat their workers and their relationship to the farmers who grow the crops? All the companies that we work with are putting huge amounts of dedication and commitment into creating products that are benefiting not just you, but also the whole ecosystem, the planet, the people. And with this series, I'm hoping to show insights into that. When you're shopping with these companies, you're really not just investing in your health, you're truly investing in a better world for us all. So yeah, I'm going to talk about cacao a little bit. You might have noticed the price has gone crazy. Every year, I always say this, but every year I learn more about cacao. And, I've been working with her since 2004 now, so that's 20 years. And really, never a year goes by. And I always wonder what more will I learn? But there's always something, and you probably know I went to Peru last year and that really deepened my relationship. But right now there's this kind of global cacao crisis. And I think it's just really interesting to understand more about how that happens. So I did get a visual up for you. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so this is really interesting, and I didn't know this until very recently. So so you probably know that cacao, it can only grow equator. Yes, it has to grow within, thank you, Andrew. It has to grow within a certain distance of the equator. It has to grow in that tropical climate. It can only grow in that climate. So there's only a limited number of countries in the world that can grow cacao successfully. And it originally came from South America, but it became one of the main slave crops. So I'm very interested in slavery at the moment. I just read an amazing book called Black British, a really incredible book about the history of, the relationship between African people and British people, and, really understanding more about slavery and how that happened. And, you probably know that essential slave crops were sugar, coffee, tea, and cacao. And so that's how it came to be grown in Africa, and still actually Africa grows, I think it's as much as 70% of the world's cacao. So you can see here, it's really, I think it's about 60% of the world's cacao is grown in two countries, the Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. And Peru, which is where we get our cacao, if you can see that there, is still less than 5% of the global cacao market. I think it's around 2% of the global cacao market, I was told. So, although obviously it's, we're talking, it's one of the major trading crops of the world, still most of what happens is still based on those kind of slavery principles. So the farmers are not paid properly and the farms are not run sustainably. And so this is why we have this this issue at the moment, because people aren't really sure what's happening with the market, because it could just be, it's been a crop failure. And interestingly, the same thing's happening with a lot of different crops. You might have noticed olive oil as well. The price has shot up of olive oil because of climate change. A lot of people are having crop failures repeatedly. And, one crop failure is a disaster, but I think it's the third crop failure in a row for olive oil. Which is why the price is just crazy now. And this is the first year of crop failure for these crops in Africa, but it has such a knock-on effect on everyone in the rest of the world, because cacao is traded on the stock market. And I didn't know this before.
But in the same way you can trade gold, you can trade cacao. And so because there's a scarcity of cacao at the moment because of the crop failures in Africa, then that people, because the price goes up, then people start trading in cacao and that inflates the price even more. So there's this huge price inflation because people that would not normally buy cacao are just buying stocks because they can make money off it at the moment. And then that keeps inflating the price and inflating the price. So the issue in Africa is they're not really sure if it's just because of the bad weather, and that's why there hasn't been a harvest this year, or if it's because of the lack of sustainability of how they grow the cacao. And if there is, then they'll have to plant new cacao trees. And that can take up to 3 years, at least 3 years, for the cacao trees to start fruiting again. So if that is the case, because they don't look after the soil properly, this isn't organic cacao we're talking about, and I'd have to check that. I'll check that for you, what the percentage of cacao that is organic in the world is, but it's obviously going to be very small. That it could well be that they're just, they're not looking after the soil, they're not looking after the trees properly. And also, the people aren't paid properly, so they've got no incentive to to have sustainable practices because it's such a it's such a poorly paid industry. When I was in Peru, one of the interesting things is that coca and cacao have very similar growing conditions. So in South America, coca is grown very widely because they can get a lot more money for it than they can get for cacao. Obviously, it's illegal and they're at the hands of the mafia when they're growing coca, but they're getting a lot more money. So for these people, I don't know if you've heard me say, but when I went to the cacao farmers, one of the farmers I went to didn't have electricity, and they didn't have running water either. It sounds crazy to say, but I'm pretty sure they didn't have running water either. Um, this is the kind of level of poverty, and these people aren't educated. A lot of them don't have basic literacy. So when someone comes to them, a coca dealer and has a bag of money, they haven't got the wherewithal to go like, oh, actually, this isn't good for the soil, or this is a short-term arrangement that might be bad for me in the long term. They're just, they're very survival based in their thinking. So of course they just accept the bags of cash when they come along. So this is partly why it's difficult to transition farmers to organic as well, because they need so much support in doing that. And as I say, they don't have that kind of long-term thinking. So it takes many years, and it's a long-term investment to do that. And if they can get the money immediately for non-organic, then that's what they're going to do. So this is what's happening at the moment, is because of this crop failure in these two African countries that produce the most of the world's cacao, then everyone else is impacted. And the smaller farmers in the South American countries, they're just getting people approaching them with a lot of money, and they're not able to say no to that for obvious reasons. So I think it's so interesting is when we think about our purchasing power, we don't often think of it in terms of this global economy, and it's we're faced with so many choices, aren't we, in our daily lives? So many choices in the West of, how to spend our money and, how to prioritize our time. We're very blessed that we have all this agency. And I think a lot of times we just take it for granted that the choices that we make are not part of it an interweb, a bigger whole. And I think it's really interesting to see what's happening with cacao at the moment, in that, it's so important that we do choose the organic. It's so important that we do support these farmers that are working sustainably, because there's so much pressure and there's so much push to do something else and to just, go for the money. That I think in times like this, it's even more important that we support the smaller farmers and the ones that are still trying to do it in a sustainable way. So yeah, I think I said the Peruvian market is less than 5% of the international market. And then, the people that are doing organic is even less than that. And the people that are doing raw cacao is even less than that. So even though the prices are going through the roof, I think when we understand the implications of not supporting these farmers, it becomes really clear why it is so important that if, we still have the wherewithal, we can do that. So yeah, just wanted to share that with you because that's all happened just in the past. The African harvest, I believe, is in October. So the price started going up in November. And basically what happens is that there'll be some left over from the past year. So that's why the prices only started rising now, because this is when they've run out of last year's crops and now we're into this year's crops. So we won't know how the price is going to change again until the next harvest in October. And if the African harvest fails again, the price is going to rise even more. If the African harvest is okay, then it will stabilize. But at the moment, it's become a trading stock. It's like gold, which is interesting to me because, we talk a lot about the Mayan times and how the Mayans revered cacao beans like a currency like gold. And that's kind of, what we're getting into now is people trading cacao as a very valuable currency. So just thought that would be interesting to share. I'll probably do something more about it soon because I don't think people are really aware of the global situation right now.
Thank you for listening. You can check out the products we've been talking about by visiting Raw Living, rawliving.co.uk. And if you haven't got an account already, then do sign up. You get £5 off your first order. And also please do like, subscribe and share this podcast. It really does help.